Hi, everybody. Welcome to Write for the Role, the podcast. I'm so happy to have a very old friend, a friend of a long time. I don't know how old she is, really, here with us today. It's Dana Delany, and thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, happy to be here.
I'm a big believer in the happy accident, and Sunday, a few weeks ago, I went to see a play in Santa Monica, and afterwards, I was kind of hanging around the lobby, and this lovely young woman came walking over to me and said, "Hi, John," and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Dana Delany." I hadn't seen you in, I think, years since Carol's Christmas parties.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we were at the Ruskin Theater in Santa Monica, and I was there to see Marcia Cross, my friend from Desperate Housewives.
Yeah. Boy, the young woman who was the director's daughter, I don't know if it was because I'm a child of divorce, but her performance just resonated with me so much more than anything else in the play. I just loved her.
Yeah, that is,
I was wishing I was working so that I could cast her.
well, she's gonna go far. I've known her since she was born.
Yeah.
Name is Jude, and she's great. She's gonna do fine.
Oh, she just was so fantastic. Um, you have had this extraordinary long career where you have evolved with yourself and made all of the pivots and changes and stayed so authentically Dana. Where did you get the nerve there or the idea that you were gonna have a creative life?
I think I was born with it. I don't think I had a lot of choice. It sounds pretentious, but it was kind of a calling for me. I think I knew since I was about 3 years old, and I never wanted to do anything else. So thank God it worked out.
Well, yeah, I think you can thank yourself for it working out. We did some research on you, and it really moved me so much to learn so much about you because I felt I knew you deeply and intrinsically, but there were so many things that I didn't know. But one of the things that we share is that our parents took us to the theater when we were little, and that you said that was a big deal for you.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Connecticut, so it was great that we could just go into the city, as it was called. And yeah, I think the first play I saw was The Sound of Music.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't with the original. The original was Carol Lawrence, right? Wasn't it? I don't know who the original.
I don't know, but
Yeah,
perhaps.
it was her replacement, but I loved it. And then from then on, whenever it was my birthday, I would ask for tickets to the theater. So I was just thinking the other day, I got to see one of my birthday presents was to see Lauren Bacall in Applause, and Penny
Wow.
is in it, who played my mom on China Beach.
Yeah, she was I was in love with Penny Fuller. What a wonderful actress. There's so many things about China Beach that we'll get to shortly. I went to the theater with my mother, and she made me wear these Brooks Brothers sweaters that had concentric triangles on them, and, I was so embarrassed, but, for me, the theater, when the lights went down, I think I experienced what other people might experience in mosques or temples or churches. I suddenly I mean, I was, like most 11, 12, 13-year-old boys, I was, lost and scattered and wacky and all of that, and somehow I would get into these seats and the lights would go down and I suddenly felt centered.
Yeah,
It felt
yeah,
like a place to be, and it turned out that was important in my young professional life as well. What
yeah.
was your first Broadway show?
I was in A Life written by, God, Hugh can't remember his last name. It was an Irish play. It was the sequel to Da, Hugh Leonard. And I was only, God, I was 24, and I really didn't know what I was doing, but it was very exciting to be doing that.
Yeah, I'll bet.
It was
And you
great.
you had just you were recently moved into New York from Wesleyan.
Yeah, from
W
college, and so that was a big thing, and it was kinda great because it was directed, oh god, of course, I'm not thinking of names, but it was it's age. It was directed by the guy who did the original production of Oliver, in
Oh,
London,
wow.
this guy, so that was very exciting to get to work with him. Yeah, that was great. I'm curious to see what your experience now going to the theater in New York is because it's so different. I mean, like you were saying, your mom got you to dress up. I would wear white gloves to go to the theater.
Yeah. Well,
And
you remember when people would wear jackets and ties and dresses on airplanes. Now everybody's in
absolutely.
sweatpants.
Yes, it was respectful. And now I have a hard time going to the theater because people just don't have etiquette anymore. And I'm
Yeah.
being Patty Lupone. It's driving me crazy.
Well, I think that's endemic to almost every part of our society is that all of that respect for institutions. And I mean, we've just recently had a president who said the word fuck in a press conference about as a way of negotiating with another foreign country.
I know because
It's
he's
sort of
excellent.
unbelievable.
Anyway,
Um, yeah.
that's
So we first met, at China Beach, and gosh, I was so sorry that I got waylaid last week when you guys had that reunion. I was sort of on my way, and then my son called on the phone, and, we're planning his 50th birthday. It's hard for me to even say that out loud, and then it was too late to get there, but the pictures that you, sent out or that I guess, Marg sent pictures out, they were wonderful. I was amazed to see how all of the women are kind of smaller than I remember you.
well, it's funny because it was organized by Diane Driscoll, who was John Wells's assistant, I believe, on China Beach. And Michael Boatman sent it to me. I was like, why are we doing this? What's the occasion? Because we actually see each other. We're all still really good friends. So
Yeah,
I thought, all right, fine. Yeah, I have nothing to do on a Saturday. And I went, and it was so great because it was a lot of the assistants who have now gone on to become really successful writers. So it was
yeah.
kind of great to
It
see.
was a fantastic environment for all of us. It was my first giant thing, and you were the person who taught me that I could trust my instincts because despite the person at ABC who had some comment about your looks, which is absurd beyond compare, if you were any more beautiful, you get in even more trouble than you've been in. Um, I really learned that I could do it, that casting was a place that I could live professionally, and I learned that from you, and actually, I wanna tell you this funny story. Where I grew up in Riverdale in the Bronx, there were a bunch of neighborhoods that were sort of, everything is segregated, but there was an Italian neighborhood and an Irish neighborhood and a Jewish neighborhood, and the little league teams tended, then to be all the boys were all Italian or all Irish or all Jewish, but I was in the one part of the town where it was mixed, and I became really close friends with a kid called Tommy McCary, and his older sister was Colleen McMurphy, and you put me to mind of her, and she was probably the first girl I ever was wildly in love with. They had a picture of the Pope, they had a picture of Jesus, and a picture of John Kennedy in the opening of their when you came in the front door of their house, and, I just, I I immediately thought that you were it. I didn't say anything because I was under Phyllis Huffman's heel. She was a tough one. Um, what do you remember about the auditioning process?
Well, I do remember having met you. I read your memoir, so you reminded me when I crawled across the floor to you, that was for a prior movie,
Oh,
and
yeah, of
I my
course.
mind, I had conflated the 2, but you're right, that was prior. Well, there's a famous story that is apocryphal because, I read the script, and it was, as you know, excellent, and
Brilliant.
parts for women that just didn't exist,
Yeah.
and I, immediately in my mind, I thought of, Clint Eastwood, which is funny we mentioned Phyllis Huffman since she cast all of his movies, but
Yes.
I thought she was like Clint Eastwood, silent, stoic, all that stuff, And I at that point, I was always getting scripts where the women were always crying. All they did was cry, and it was so boring to me. And this was so great because she would try not to cry. It was all about
Right.
holding, and I thought, "That's more like life. Those are the women I know." So, I really wanted it, and I prepared, and I went to Warner Brothers, and I sat outside John Young's office, and I was there for, like, 45 minutes, and he kept sticking his head out and looking at me. And then finally he came out and he said, "Are you Dana Delany?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Why are you here?" I said, "For the China Beach audition." And he said, "You're a day early." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Come into my office." So I went into his office and we just sat and talked. And then he said, "Come back tomorrow and read." And of course, the story became that I did it on purpose, that that was a strategy or something. But it wasn't. I really was there a day early. I
Yeah.
think I wanted it. I just was so eager. And so I had to come back the next day, and you were there, and I read in the office the next day, and then, as you know, it went on and on and on, and we had to do, like, a real old-fashioned screen test, which nobody
Yeah, and I wish I could find that screen test because I read with you and with Helen Hunt, and Rod directed it,
Yes?
and we were on a set that was sort of Hawaiian or something. There were palm trees or as I recall. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
and it was on
it's quite a
stage.
memory.
I was so excited to be on a sound stage at Warner Brothers.
Yeah. I don't think but now, of course, everything is all on tape and but you don't audition anymore, so you haven't been caught up in this whole self-tape world.
Well, I mean, I'd love to know your opinions because you're right. I have never done a self tape, but mostly because I don't know how to. I don't
Yeah.
know, and I just really don't want to learn.
Yeah, well, believe me, I'm a world-renowned Luddite. Fortunately, I have friends and, young people who understand technology and can let me, use the benefits of it, but I just feel like, being in the room with people, you experience them between the takes, and you watch them take direction and listen, and you see them in the hallway, and all of that human interaction. Now we get 2 takes of you acting, which is obviously important because you will be acting,
Mhm.
but without all the rest of it, I'm at a loss.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I guess this saves money and time, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it does all of those things, and technology always makes things smoother and faster and more efficient, but I think when you're in the business of telling human stories, that human contact is a little bit like Woody Allen's Orgasmatron. Personally, I think it's better if there's somebody else there than if
Yeah,
you're in a booth in a machine.
yeah, yeah. And Woody Allen didn't make anybody audition either. You just met with him, and then you either got the part or you didn't. That was it.
Yeah. That was the same you mentioned that Phyllis Huffman cast all of Clint Eastwood's movies. I was sat in with Phyllis during the time that I worked for her and, with Clint, and we were alone in the room at some point, and I said to him, "Mr. Eastwood, why is it that you don't, have people read and they just meet with you and talk with you?" And he said, "Nobody can be at their best around me. I'm Clint Eastwood, and I fuck everything up for people." You know? Um, uh so, the thing that I remember the most about you in China Beach and the personal part of it for me was that I thought that if I'm the generation that might have gone to China Beach, to
Mhm.
Vietnam. My order to report for my physical was canceled because I was arrested for possession of marijuana. Fortunately, I didn't end up at Attica State Prison when the riots would happen. That might have been even worse than being in Vietnam. But, I certainly didn't wanna be a soldier. I don't think I would have been a good soldier. But if I had been a soldier, and I may cry, but, Colleen McMurphy, her arms would have been the best place to die. You were so empathetic and you gave to those boys something so much more important than a television executive worrying about your looks.
Now I'm crying.
You gave your heart to all of those boys, and it was that's when I knew we were onto something.
Yeah, it's funny. It was such a seminal thing for all of us, that show, we're all so young. And I obviously it spoiled me for because I thought it was always all the roles were gonna be like that. And now I know how unique that was, that it was so
Right.
human. And people don't these days especially, they don't wanna see that, you know?
No.
And
Well,
I
it's
just
all green screen and action and wild pyrotechnics, and that
yeah.
intimate storytelling, I is really, fading, and it's part of the
Well,
reason why I
well,
mostly am doing independent features these days for old friends rather than I don't wanna do network television show, it seems like a wasteland,
yeah.
to me.
I don't know, it's funny because, people ask me, what role, do you identify the most that you've played with? And it was definitely Colleen, who ironically is the closest to who I am, you know?
Yeah.
That's really me. And then I do have done all these other roles since, but it's it's interesting that that was the one that still resonates for me. And sometimes it's like, does it resonate because it was my youth or because it was so great, or is it all those things, you know?
I think it's all of those things, and people often ask me, what's the project you worked on that was the most meaningful?" And I it's like asking me which of my 2 children I love more. I love them differently,
Yeah.
and they have different meaning because of the time in my life that they happen and what else is going on in my life, and I think that's the amazing thing about your long and successful career is that you've evolved authentically as you. And your work and the things that you're interested in. I had a really good friend who had got scleroderma. I didn't know you were involved in that charity, o over the years. I don't, know the history of, noir film the way you do, but I read noir fiction like I devour the stuff.
Yeah.
Um, what is it about the noir films that grabbed your attention here
I don't
later in your life?
well, like I said in the article I wrote about Gloria Graham, I grew up watching the 4:30 movie. That was, I wasn't a sporty person. I went home and just sat in front of the TV and ate a box of Fig Newtons and watched the 4:30 movie. And and I just when I first saw her, I was like, "Oh my god, who is that?" And,
Uh-huh,
you know, it pertains to my career because I never related to the leads. Those were not the characters I was interested in. I like the secondary women, who are a little more off, a little more offbeat, a little more interesting, a little more imperfect. And those are the roles that always I was drawn to, it like Gloria Graham. And so since then, I'm a big TCM fan. I don't really watch a lot of contemporary movies. I watch old movies because I just
mhm.
those are just great stories, and
And the
I
women are really three-dimensional, as you
yeah,
say,
women rule
and
Hollywood.
I've seen, films in the last 20 years where, a woman is in the opening reel, and then she's in the last reel, and you sort of wonder, "Where the hell did she go?"
Yeah,
It's not her story. She's there as an appendage to the male character usually.
um,
I always one of the things I loved about working in television all those years is that it was a platform for women.
yes,
I was fascinated to learn in this research that Trudy did for today that you were friends with Darren Star and that at a certain point, it almost looked like you could have played the lead in Sex and the City, and what a
um,
wise decision you made to not
well, I
pursue
think
that.
it would be very rich.
Yeah, well, you're probably, doing okay.
Well, it's funny, I am now it's not a great thing. I'm known for turning down so many people don't even know half the things I've turned down, and I've stopped talking about it because it inevitably becomes the story,
Right.
But every role I've turned down, and you know about a couple of them, I had a good reason for it. And
Sure.
and in a way, China Beach spoiled me because and John Young used to say this, I just felt like as an actor, I learned how what we put out into the world is really important because it affects people, and you have to be responsible for that. And I always made choices based on that, or I knew that the people writing it or behind the scenes, maybe there was something iffy there and I knew how that was gonna turn out. I just, I had reasons. And so, yeah, I've missed a lot of big things, but it's my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had reasons, and it seems to me that you've been on something that I like to uh, talk about, which is a journey of self-discovery. And if you really know who you are, and you're evolving and changing and growing organically with yourself, then you can make decisions that are responsible to yourself and also to your audience. I mean, I think you're right. The impact that a show like ER had on society, in terms of getting information out about mental health issues and drug addiction and sexually transmitted diseases, and it far exceeded the impact of the government.
Yes. Yeah.
And we it is a huge responsibility to be authentic, and it's a great gift that you gave yourself permission to care and to have standards and to do it the right way.
Well, and also, I mean, anybody who's sensitive as an actor, you're so affected by your environment, and I'm sure you can understand this, that if you know you're going to be going to a set every day and just feel kind of like, ugh, it's not going to work.
Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, I know. You said, at a certain point I learned that you said every young actor is really just trying to get their parents' attention. You got the attention of a lot of people over your long career. Did you get your parents' attention?
Well, yeah, I mean, I said that when I was little, I was kind of shy, and so I would put on skits, like probably now kids shoot little movies on their phones or something, but then you put on skits, and you would rope
Yeah.
your siblings in or kids in the neighborhood to put on shows. So I think that was a way of doing it for me. I knew I could make, my father laugh or something like that. And it was a way to hide. I kinda hid behind all that. I could hide behind the characters because
But I mean, as your success mounted, were your parents still alive to see that?
yeah, um, I didn't have the typical parents. My father died when I was 25, and I was
Uh-huh.
really
My father died when I was, 23.
and I was very you're gonna make me cry, but I was very, very happy that, he got to see me on Broadway. So that was
Yeah.
great. That was great.
Yeah, my mom came out and saw a play that I directed on the main stage at the Mark Taper Forum when I thought all my dreams had come true.
Yes.
Little did I know, but it was a very big deal, and I think, honestly, one of the great regrets of my life is that my dad died when I was so young. He never saw me as a father, and he never saw me as a adult or a I don't know if I qualify as a responsible adult, but I did pretty well, and it would have been swell for him to see that. I made a little short film actually, which was based on a dream I had about this very thing of a father and a son, and whether you ever get what you want. It was my first venture in directing and writing for the screen. It's about 7 minutes long.
Oh my god, I'd love to see that.
I'll send it to you.
Please. But yeah, my mother and no. It was always I don't think I ever got what I wanted there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did with my mom, and I didn't with my dad.
Yeah.
Well, and when speaking of my mom, when I was a little boy, she used to play a game with us and say, "Johnny, say 3 words to describe yourself," and I think I had no, shortage of of some kind of moxie, and I think I answered, "I'm Johnny, I'm me, and I'm a boy." Would you play the game with me? Would you say 3 words that you think encapsulate who you are still becoming and who you've always been?
Wow. Curious, present, and oof, that's a hard one. A loner.
Yeah,
I say, I would say a present, curious loner.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dana, it's such a fantastic delight to see you, to be in your presence, and to have been in your life.
Thank you, John. I love you.